Hey nerds, it's Nathan, and I want to talk to you about what I believe is a criminally underrated book series, and that is Peter V. Brett's The Painted Man, although it has been redubbed the Demon Cycle series. And this is one of my absolute favorites growing up. I love this, and I want everyone to know about it. It needs more love. It needs to be seen on Book Talk more. Here we go. At sunset, the callings rise. Demons who well up from the ground like hellish steam, taking on fearsome form and substance. Immune to the mortal weapons, they burn with a consuming hatred of humanity. For hundreds of years, callings have terrified the night, slowly culling the human herd that shelters behind magical ward systems of power whose origins have been lost to myth and mystery. It was not always this way. Once, men and women battled the Callings on equal terms, under the leadership of the legendary Deliverer, and armed with powerful wards that were not merely shields but weapons. They took the battle to the demons. Now, those days are gone. The fighting wards lost. Night by night, the demons grow stronger, while human numbers dwindle in droves. With hope for the future fading, three young survivors of vicious demon attacks will dare the impossible. Will dare the impossible, stepping out beyond the crumbling safety of their wards to risk everything in a desperate quest to regain secrets of the past. After doing a little bit of online research, the spectrum of reactions to this series seems to range quite wildly, unlike a lot of what we see today, where it's either a real hyper-focused love for a series, or it's just a deeply ingrained hatred, and there's not a lot of middle ground, whereas this series seems to have it ranging from both ends and everything in between. I found people saying they loved it, it's their favorite. I found people saying they enjoyed it, but there was obvious problems, general critiques, and then there were people who DNF'd it after the second or third book. I feel one of the reasons that this series flew under the radar quite a lot is because it must have just missed the book review blow up on YouTube, and subsequently the mainstream blow up of BookTube itself and things like Bookstagram and TikTok, obviously. And I feel it kind of just got swept behind. Peter V. Brett isn't some massive author like Brandon Sanderson, but by the same token, he's still an incredible writer and he's done incredible works. And this is the first series within the Demon Cycle, and now he's made a second one that continues on as a next generation from this series. For me personally, Peter has taken the trope of humanity on the brink of collapse and he's given it a bit of new life. I'm not quite sure how I can really describe it, but he made it interesting. He didn't make it feel stale. For me personally, when I was reading these books, I was quite gripped at how he's shown these societies trying to basically encase themselves and the strange cultures that we create when isolated from others. The demons called callings, and they're called callings because they rise from the core of the earth every night. They also have an interesting connotation. This doesn't take on the traditional sense of demons being giant red monsters with enormous power or deal-making devils. Instead, they actually have an elemental sort of twist to them, not necessarily being made of the elements themselves, but the stone, clay, sand, wood, fire, lake, or water demons are not called that because they're made out of those substances. They've almost adapted like creatures. The stone demons have an incredibly tough stone-like hide. The wood demons have grown tall and lanky and have these gnarly, extra like sharp appendages, and they literally hide amongst trees in the forest. Like that is their camouflage. The water or lake demons are like these giant leviathan monsters that take ships down. Fire demons are these little impy things that have a viscity, viscosity, highly flammable like saliva, and when it reacts to oxygen, so they spit it and then it ignites. Sand demons are practically invisible in the desert, and they can essentially swim through the sand like it's nothing. And later on in the books as well, you actually see that there is a hierarchy system within the demons as well. They have this complex animalistic like food chain, as well as a type of very primal intelligence, and can hold grudges and things like that. I think he's done an excellent job. Throughout the series, we will follow a wide range of characters with Arlen Bales, Leisha Paper, Roger Inn, Arman Jadir, a man named Aban, and then Rana Tanner. Set in the desert world of Thessa, where several different nations struggle, each in their own way, to survive each and every night, and all the terrors that follow each and every night. We follow the characters through huge portions of their lives, with chapters especially dedicated to their childhood, and even their childhood and various parts of their past, just so we can see the immense character progression, as well as how the world that they live in has slowly changed as they've grown up and as their adventures have begun. I find with many larger scale series like Wheel of Time, Harry Potter, anything by Robin Hobb, really, anything that's stretched over a period of years, the writer can tend to have more flexibility in creating that fantastic character development, and that is one of the things I have absolutely always loved about this series, which is the character development of all our characters. Not some where you see them and you just go, oh, like, wow, they've grown up so much, they become these incredible people, or someone else, you get 1 out of 5. No, this is like 8 out of 8 characters or main characters become sensational, and we see so much development. Or they start sensational, but they start as really flawed people, and they grow and they change, and maybe they still really are flawed people, but they become so much more, and which is another reason why this is criminally underrated. God, I can't say that word. Knotfest was yesterday, and I'm wrecked, if you can't tell by my voice and my sunburn. Quick note, one of our main character, Arlen Bales, has the most transformative character development I'm pretty sure I've ever read, if I'm being totally honest. I know I haven't read as much as many other book reviewers. I don't just consume like 8 books a month, but seriously though, the character of Arlen Bales slowly becoming the man he becomes, and then that changing so radically when he is confronted with so much by the time we reach the end book, which is the core. Chef's kiss. Most of the world is truly terrified of the night, and the desire and drive of our main characters is what pushes the plot forward at a pretty reasonable pace. The magic is also fairly fleshed out, actually completely fleshed out, I would say, within the first couple of books, and Peter has a real ingenuity as how our characters utilize the wards, and at some points even the demons themselves, in order to protect towns and cities and villages, and then later on begin to combat the demons and all the incursions that happen on a nightly basis. That is one thing I'm actually very thankful for. I've read some series, or I've had to DNF some series, where the magic system is not fully flushed out, and we have this premise or idea, and then as we read on and on and on, it keeps changing because the writer keeps adding more, either trying to make it more complex or trying to give it some kind of structure after the fact. Peter hasn't done that. Peter's kept a very streamlined, simple idea, and with simplicity, sometimes you can then build on the complexities later. And that's something I've really enjoyed about the ward system. I still think about it to this day and can do comparisons when I read other books. A huge, positive, big green flag of this series is the cultural world building. It is the as the story progresses and as humanity starts learning to fight back for itself, it is the aspect of religion that Peter has used that really, really pushes a lot of this plot and has so much reference to our own real world. So in the book, there is the myth of the Deliverer, a savior which will one day come again to bring humanity out of the darkness. Now, we've heard that 1,000 times. That's in all kinds of sci-fi and fantasy. But it's more the clash of cultures that come from it. Everyone's own interpretation of who or what the Deliverer is supposed to be. And I see that reflected in a lot of the politics and religion of our own world. And when you're at war with an overpowering, outnumbering force such as these demons, but then you're going to war with everyone else over the concept of who might be this savior, once this so-called savior has arrived within the series, it's just so interesting to see what people will do to take this idea that people will begin destroying each other over the idea of a man instead of using that idea and the ideals that it's supposed to bring to just defeat your enemy. The whole "if you're not with us, you're against us" thing really becomes quite prevalent, and it's crazy, and it's a massive subplot of the book, apart from just humanity trying to survive. Also, don't know whether it's a plus. It might be for some people, especially if you're a big Game of Thrones fan, or George R. Martin fan, I should say. Peter also pulls no punches with being cruel to his characters. We have betrayal, abuse, abandonment, hypocrisy, all kinds of family tragedy and family turbulence in history with multiple characters. And we even have down to the small stuff, like just cheating amongst partners. Peter really, really knows how to set up a world where you just want to root for somebody, and either something fucking horrible happens to them, or they themselves do something so simplistically stupid that you're just like, oh, you've ruined everything for yourself. Peter pulls no punches, and it's fantastic because it really gives this sort of dire desperation to the world and to the atmosphere of everything that's happening, and also makes his characters extremely human, as they use magic and they're fighting demons. It's really hard to relate, but then something horrific happens to them, and even if you can't relate to that horrible thing, you can relate to the fact that they feel that they're in pain, that they're confused, and he just really brings it back down to earth. This is a series that I do recommend quite often, to the right people, obviously. If you're into thrillers, I'm not going to give you an epic fantasy. But I feel it just needs more love. I feel it hasn't been given the recognition that it deserves. I feel it just went too far under the radar, and it fucking kills me. It really, really does. But as a starter series, I think I started reading this when I was a teenager. As a starter fantasy series, I think this is really good. I think it has some really interesting world building, magic aspects, and obviously, as I said just a minute ago, it has some horrible things happen. It really brings some adult themes into it, which I think by the time you're 15, 16, you already have a concept of them anyways. I would recommend this to anyone that loves sci-fi, that loves a pretty decent sized series. This is a 5-book series, and as I said, there is also a second series being developed. The first book is out. I think the second book may be out. I'll have to check. So it's ever expansive. It's not like it's one and done. We're going to continue to build on it and see what the world looks like after all our characters have completed their mission, so to speak. And yeah, honestly, if you just like fantasy in general and you want a decent, interesting read, pick up The Painted Man. Seriously, you might find copies that say The Warded Man. I would highly suggest you don't do that, because that's gross. I don't like the fact that his publishing agency changed the name of the dude. The Painted Man. That's what the series is about. It's about a guy covered in wards, which makes sense when it's The Warded Man. But that really fucking bugs me, because it's like the nostalgia effect for me. Don't fuck with something I love. Getting off my rant. Pick it up. It's really, really good. It has all these wonderful, deep, interesting things in it. It has all these wonderful, complex characters. It has a very interesting magic system. It has demons that are brutal and crazy and sometimes really dumb. But sometimes dumb can be dangerous. I just really love it. I love all the cultural conflicts that happen. I love the religious conflicts that happen, the interpersonal conflicts, all the crazy shit that does happen in this series. Please, 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 get this series. Oh, there's a bug trying to get in my hair. Please pick up the series. Fucking don't know where it went. That's all I have to say. I think it's great. I think it's underrated. I think you should pick it up. And once you've had a read, I would love to hear some comments. I'd love to know what you think about one of my personal favorites. Alright, guys. Thanks for watching.